Hey, welcome everyone to season 6, episode 16 of the Focus TV. We're joined by Octavia Wyatt. I'm Wilson Turpin Jr. And as you can see, Ray and Carter are not with us tonight. They will be back next week. We'll be hearing from Ray just a little bit later. We'll have Carter back next week, like I said. But Octavia, a wonderful, weekend of sports, which we're looking forward to after last week's show, and then the social commentary that has happened across multiple sports since the last time we talked to these good people. I can't wait to get into some of that. However, we get closer and closer with every show that passes, every week that goes by, to this year's NFL draft. What's happening in NFC East as of late? Because there's rumors everywhere across the league, and it's just very interesting time, to say the least.
Well, yeah, I think in the NFC East, as far as the rumors have been a lot less, a lot more mild than the rumors are in some of the other divisions, which is crazy because the NFC East is usually the talk of the town, whether it's good or bad. Most of the times it's bad. There's not too much really going on, especially not with player personnel. A lot of players haven't really changed any, courses on anything. It's a little bit just of some talk. A lot of the situations going on now was just after the coaches' meetings from last week. Hilarious video, if you haven't seen it, of Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce trying to figure out who these coaches are. Travis Kelce doesn't know any coaches in the NFL except for his own. And he didn't even know his brother's defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator. So it was actually pretty hilarious. So
Why? I'm so sorry. He called Sean McVay Gordon Bombay, and
yeah,
it
just
killed
said
me.
it normally, like it was nothing. I mean, Mike McCarthy, he's Mike Foley now. So it was crazy to me. It's like our coach wasn't even posted. Like, I mean, Nick Sirianni wasn't even in the picture that I could see. So it was just a funny video. Their podcast is hilarious, but not too much really going on. But one thing, as far as player personnel for the Philadelphia Eagles, the Eagles did add more depth to their defensive tackle position. On Thursday, they've signed former Saints defender Kentavious Street to a 1-year deal. Again, I don't know what it is. Like, there must be some secret communication between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New Orleans Saints, because they trade players back and forth a lot, like a lot. So, I mean, the greatest one, in my opinion, in this whole scenario was always be Malcolm Jenkins. To leave there, come to us, win a chip, go back to them. It was a lot. So obviously they have good rapport. They get along well. So if you're not doing well in New Orleans, come on up to Philadelphia. We'll see how you do up here, it seems like. But of course, with all of the defensive talent that we did lose in these last couple of weeks, months at this point, defensive tackle shoring up that position is definitely needed. Need as much depth as possible, but it's going to be Jordan Davis's time to kind of shine. Fletcher's back, Brandon's back, but we know they don't get to play as many series in a row as they would probably like to, due to father time being undefeated. So it'll be interesting to see what else happens, as like you said, especially when we get closer and closer to the draft. For the Dallas Cowboys, again, not a lot going on. Still really haven't heard any word. Last I heard about, as far as Ezekiel Elliott, they said that he had 3 teams he was looking forward to going to, either the Philadelphia Eagles, Cincinnati Bengals, or the New York Jets. Still have not heard anything about that. There was rumors that he could possibly end up back there. Haven't heard anything concrete yet. I heard a very weird rumor today for the Dallas Cowboys that apparently, Derrick Henry could be a cut candidate later on this summer, and he could magically appear in Dallas. I don't like this rumor at all. I hope this rumor gets zero traction. He needs to stay in the AFC as well. We don't want any of those problems in the NFC. Thank you very much. So Dallas, yes, let's not do that. Let's keep looking elsewhere. I do believe that they're going to need, some more running back depth, with Pollard coming off of the ankle leg injury. And to be honest, I don't know who's behind him. So they're definitely going to need to do something in that position. I'm just hoping it's not Derrick Henry. We don't want that. That can't happen. Speaking of running backs, though, the New York Giants are still back and forth with their franchise tag running back Saquon Barkley. There's still no outstanding offers as of now. Although it doesn't seem like Barkley is keen on playing on the franchise tag as of now, they haven't come to any long-term deals. It'll be interesting to see if Saquon decides to not play on the tag, if they don't get him a solid deal. But he doesn't have much leverage, so we'll kind of see how that goes the closer and closer we get to OTAs and mandatory practices and workouts that he'll need to be in. I believe their first one is April 17th. So we'll see if he reports. If not, then we'll kind of figure out what goes there. We have about 2 weeks until that day. Therefore, I would expect to see, some type of contract, something happen, or we'll just be waiting to see if he shows up. Again, not a lot going on. I did read an interesting article about the Giants where their GM, John Mara, had an interview on NFL Sirius XM radio, and basically, realizing that the New York Giants had a very quick come up in this past year, and they don't want it to be quick-lived or short-lived. They want to make sure that they can sustain. Granted, I feel like everybody would be on board with saying that they peaked very early than we thought that they would, with the new regime coming in. So he joked and said that Dable, was kind of walking around town now like Bono, but don't turn into Bozo because we know the New York media and market will flip on you in a second. A lot of these big market teams will. So he definitely has to make sure that he has a great year too. So that's what again, not much going on. I really want to figure out what they're going to do with Saquon is probably the biggest thing that I want to kind of figure out with them. And then your hometown Washington Commanders, surprisingly not a lot going on right now ever since the 2 bids came in. Magic Johnson did have an interview where he spoke about it, saying that yes, he is a part of the group. The bids are in. They hope they win. They don't know what's going to happen. They're just waiting to see if Daniel Snyder accepts their offer or somebody else's, or who knows? Daniel Snyder could come back with a counter offer. He's crazy enough to do it. So they're really just waiting on that. Again, still waiting to figure out if they're going to pick up Chase Young's 5th option. Granted, they have more time. That's not something that's seriously pressing at this moment. And I just think for me, just the biggest thing is just making sure that they do not decide that they want Lamar Jackson. Like, I just don't want that. If you're a Commanders fan, you should be dying for that. You should be dying for them to at least, entertain the option. As we know, Lamar Jackson has already stated that he wants to trade, but who knows? People's feelings get hurt. I think, especially I've heard a lot that when players don't have representation, a lot of times the representation is like a buffer between the team and the player. And yeah, sometimes they tell the agent certain things that the agent won't tell the player, so the player doesn't get their feelings hurt. We don't have that situation going on. So he's finding out everything of how they feel about him. So I'm just hoping that he decides to stay in Baltimore or stay in the AFC. Just don't come around these parts. We don't want any of those problems. As far as probably another, right now, a lot of teams are hosting, draft prospects because the draft is coming up on the 27th. So a lot of teams are hosting draft prospects. Probably the biggest thing that I've heard recently is defensive lineman Jalen Carter. We all know what's going on in that situation. We played for Georgia the last couple of years. Right now, it's just having a hard time with the accident that happened, his involvement or non-involvement, however you want to say it. And then his pro day, coming up to pro day, I believe they say he was 9 pounds overweight, wasn't even able to finish the drills. But his representation has stated that they are not meeting with anybody outside of the top 10. And they are formulating that based on the fact, apparently, rumors, stuff that I read online, that he's convinced that he will not fall out the top 10. If you're not aware, the number 10 pick is the Philadelphia Eagles. They think that some of the familiarity that he has with Jordan Davis, Kobe Dean, 2 players that played with him at Georgia and won a championship. So who knows? I don't think it's the greatest idea to just say I'm not meeting with anybody outside of the top 10, especially with the things that we just named, him being overweight, the issues, off the field. A lot of teams take a lot of pride into looking into those situations with players. But I guess this is the biggest case of bet on yourself ever and just hope that somebody from these top 10 believe enough in you and they understand your character that situation that happened or did not happen again. I have no idea how involved he was just not somebody that he is. So he's banking on that. There's so much more going on, of course. I'm sure the closer and closer we get to the draft, we'll talk about draft prospects. There's so many mock drafts out there. I think that Todd McShay is on his 4th now, and I'm sure there's like 6 more to go at this point.
Facts.
So, that's pretty much all going in the NFC East right now. But closer and closer we get to the draft, I feel like a lot of things are going to explode. So just ready and waiting for that.
Yeah, the Jalen Carter thing is very interesting. But again, when you think of who his agent is, it's not surprising.
Yeah,
Drew
Savage.
Rosen, Drew's gonna Drew.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, I guess more times than often it works out for his clients, and the times that it doesn't, I think people kind of just sweep it under the rug for the most part. People outside the agent industry, those people, they kind of keeping tabs, but it is what it is, a dog eat dog world over there. But yeah, like you talk about some folks that got a really not interesting take, but a very good take. Have had some really good discussions about the Lamar thing, wanting Lamar here in the direction the Commanders are going. I'm gonna push you guys over to my folks over at the Trapper Dive podcast. My guy Jamal and AJ and Dre. Very impassioned discussions about AJ's all like, what the heck are we doing? Where are we going? Get a Lamar and all this. Ron, what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. Then you got some folks on the other side of it where some people on the outside actually believe all these teams that are like, oh well, we'll be okay with look, I love Desmond Ridder in Atlanta. Desmond Ridder is one of my draft crushes, all right? No. Okay, look, I love Trey Lance. I'm very happy with what Mr. Purdy did. However, bye. Like if it's me, anybody not named Fred Warner, you're a Baltimore Raven. What does it take? I tell you, you're laughing. I'm serious.
See you later.
We'll find another you. If we can't find another you, we'll find something else. We'll just find something new. We're not made with
people that might equal you. That'll work.
Man, do you understand? Like I've said this before. I was talking to my cousin Jesse. We've done stuff with Jesse before, and I was just like, bruh, I would send the DPOY over there in a heartbeat. We can find more. No disrespect to him, but he's missed years. And you want to know what I wish we had during those years he was gone? Top 5 quarterback. Look, man, I love Nicholas, John, Bosa. However, if you could get me a Lamar, I hope you like Baltimore. You going to the East Coast. You already, your people's already from Florida.
It's not gonna be funny though.
Man, hey, look, it's a short ride on the PJ from Baltimore to Miami. And you can go back home all the sun you want. I'm cool with that. For a Lamar, anything not named Fred, bye. Whatever y'all want. I don't care. You want to take John Lynch? Take him too. I don't care. Just go. Take John, Trey, Brock. Take the whole QB room. I don't care. But we're going to move on to DC United. This past week, obviously told you guys last week, they were on the road against Chicago. They weren't able to get 3 points. However, they did leave the Windy City with a scoreless draw. So they did leave with something. Taxi Fountains got his first start of the season. Jacob Green made his second consecutive start. As cliche as it sounds, I feel like I know I'm a broken record. I'm so sorry, guys. Not capitalizing on opportunities costs you in a sport where when you score, it counts as one. Those opportunities there's that much more pressure put on those opportunities. It's not basketball where you can go cold for 5 minutes and answer with a 15-0 run. Or baseball where you can rally with a 6-0 run. No. You get 3 opportunities, you need that's where 33% is okay. That's when it's all right. But both teams, both Chicago and DC United, they took their shot attempts were in the double digits. However, in terms of the ratio between shots on frame versus shots, they both struggled in that area. Not as many shots got on frame, but there were solid chances that were created. All those chances just weren't threatening enough to put either team ahead. That said, it was good to see Taxi starting again, and I'm interested in seeing as he continues, health permitting, of course, he remains healthy. That working relationship up front between him and Christian Benteke. We saw at times what it could be, and the tension that Benteke draws at times, where Taxi's pushing the ball up. You're not going to slide off Benteke to come close out on Taxi, and Taxi was able to get off a couple good shots, just weren't able to capitalize. We saw Benteke do what he does, especially in the air, in terms of winning aerial duels. But DC United has a very tall task this week. They host the fourth ranked Columbus Crew in the Eastern Conference. While hosting a team that's fourth might not seem intimidating, just by looking at the standings, this part is in 6 games, Columbus has scored 15 goals. Right. Oh, right. Oh, by the way, nothing to sneeze at here. So while they're fourth, there's a thing they do very. You want to talk about a team that capitalizes on opportunities? They do. That is a high-powered offense, high-powered attack rather. And DC United, obviously you want to bunker down and take care of business on a defensive end. You need to score this week. Just keep it a buck. You have to score this week. This is one of those times where maybe your offense might be your best defense in this case. 15 goals in 6 games is absurd.
Yeah.
Means you got a couple 4-goal games. All right. Meanwhile, somebody like DC right now, I think in 6 games they've played, they've only scored 7 goals. They scored 7. I think they've conceded 10. So they're in the negative in that regard. Columbus scored 15. That's crazy. But what we will do, we're going to head to our first break. On the other side of the break, we're going to check in with Ray, and he's going to break down tonight's results between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Washington Wizards. Washington's, as they head into this last few games, few is 3, right? So the last few games of the season. They're missing some of their bigger guns, so some of the youngsters get more chance to play or whatnot. But we'll check in with Ray after the break, and then following that, when we return, we're going to talk some college basketball because apparently, if you put women's basketball on TV, people watch it. It's really crazy. It's just, it's a rumor, we're not too sure here, but 9.9 million at a nasty time slot on a Sunday. Like that time slot was disrespectful too. Just gonna.
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
Yeah, that time slot was a big we don't care energy, and still.
Yeah, like who changed the rules all of a sudden? I don't think it was at that time last year.
Got some ideas, but I'm gonna leave that alone. We're gonna take a break. You guys are watching the Focus TV and we will rejoin you all very shortly. Ray, tonight Giannis goes for a triple double. Drew Holiday nearly follows his teammate with a triple double. Bobby Portis has a monstrous double double. You're at Capital One. What happened tonight?
I mean, the Wizards just outmanned. And they're playing one of the better teams in the league without 4 of their top guys. So this was they did their best. You know, they get a A for effort, but they just simply didn't have enough. Yeah, man. Milwaukee just controlled the game from the tip. The Wizards fought, but like I said, man, they had the B squad out there. They can barely deal with this team when they're at full strength. So all you can ask is that they give maximum effort, which I feel they did. Um, it's always good to see Johnny Davis continue to come into his own, man. He's getting more comfortable by the day. Poor Drew Holiday slipping on a fast break, punched it on him. This is good to see the young guy's confidence grow. Um, you know, Jordan Goodwin came with his usual effort, but yeah, they just faced a better team, and the results spoke to that. Giannis had a casual triple double, like you pointed out. Um, in true Wizards fashion, they couldn't stop a nose. It was just a layup drill, and the Bucks just overpowered them on a glass. So yeah, it's really not too much to say. I think this was I think most people saw this coming, especially with the way the injury report looked. So yeah, man. I'm just glad they didn't tuck tail and they fought the entire game. That's all I was looking for.
Facts, and something like this, like you said, with the injury report saying what it stated, uh, come out and fight the people that got those opportunities. And you got a chance to see some of the folks that have been in the G League, what they've been up to, extended minutes on this level. So before I ask you about player of the game, anything out? I heard you mention Johnny Davis already. Who else outside of that, that young group, getting those extended minutes now as the regular season comes to a close, have really showed you anything, or whether it be tonight or just period, over the last couple games, or you're looking forward to seeing as we close the season?
Yeah, we already talked about Johnny Davis. Jay Huff, he had 17 and 9, 5 and 10 from the field. He showed his range a little bit. Yeah, he's also was the G League Defensive Player of the Year. So, he's able to make an impact on the floor. Um, Pretty much a lot of the young guys came in and played pretty decent. Cooks, he had a solid game. Pretty much everybody contributed in some form of fashion. So, but yeah, like you said, man, it's good to see those guys, get reps at the highest level after being able to, kind of work through some things with the go-go. Yeah, nah, I think it's only going to help, especially during these last few games, just for them to kind of get their feet wet, get their sea legs up under them, with the varsity team, so to speak. But yeah, man, it's just to see Johnny Davis's growth. We talked about it. The first game he kind of got some extended minutes. That how much different he looked from his first game with the Wizards until now. At first it was kind of like that Darren Headlights thing. Now he's confident. So and it's paying dividends. So yeah, man. It's good to see the young guys get these opportunities and take advantage of them.
I want to thank Ray for breaking down tonight's game between the Wizards and Bucks. All right, college basketball. All right, we know who the champions are. We left last week's show knowing who was in the Final Four. We now know who left victorious in both the men's and the women's brackets. We'll start with the women's. Let's see. Let me get that banner there for you guys. And look, man, in the Final Four on the women's side, we saw LSU knock off Virginia Tech 79-72 to advance to the title game. Then we saw Iowa hold off South Carolina in an upset win 77-73. And that game was bonkers. Because despite everything that happened, with South Carolina, they still had opportunity. And honestly, if I were to go back, just off the top of my head, I feel like the foul line, they left some points at the foul line in a very close game. They lost by 4. And off the top of my head, I know they missed at least 6 free throws. That's it. That put, everyone was excited about the matchup between two of the players who talk the most, in women's college basketball. I'm talking about cash. They talk. In terms of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. And neither one has an issue talking, and they both typically back it up. And we'll get into some of the other stuff that came around this. But let's keep it basketball right now. In the title game, we saw a very competitive first quarter. And then in the second quarter, both LSU and Iowa had some of their key players in foul trouble. And Jasmine Carson stole the show. This is what happens. This is stuff that happens in like Disney movies or whoever had the script that day. Outstanding script. No one had this. And it's not to say Jasmine Carson is a bad player. It's not to say that at all. It's saying that she wasn't having the greatest of tournaments. And LSU was still doing her thing. However, in a moment, if you want to talk about a moment to step up as a player off the bench, seizing the you-know-what out of that moment. 7 of 7 from the field, 5 of 5 from deep. She finished the first half with 21 points. And more importantly, that scoring barrage blew the game open. That was the difference in this game. And I don't care what anybody tells you the difference, it's a lie. That was the difference in this game. That second quarter stretch where she went crazy. And then essentially after that, when you're down, you can't afford to trade baskets. Unless you got here for a reason. If you're trading baskets, you're already up. Again, big run by Iowa in the third quarter to cut things down to single digits. But LSU responded. The big guns got going a little bit, and that was that. Alexis Morris and Angel Reese led the way. Morris finished with 21 points, 9 assists, while Reese finished with 15 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, I think, and a couple steals on the block. And then that was her 35th double-double of the season, which put her in the record books. And she would be named the most outstanding player. Caitlin Clark led Iowa with 30 points and 8 assists. So I tell you, just your thoughts on the women's side of the bracket.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Jasmine Carson came ready to play, and that's literally the epitome of always be ready. She probably didn't get she probably wasn't thought of to be a player that would be this instrumental in their win. When you have players like Angel Reese and Alexis Morris and LaDasia Williams and Flau'jae Johnson, those players are the ones that you would expect to do a lot of the heavy lifting in that game. But one thing that I wholeheartedly believe, and not just on the women's side, but on the men's side, I believe that the officiating has been horrible. I didn't like it pretty much everywhere.
There was no consistency anywhere. Like, if you're gonna call a tight game, it should be tight for the duration of the game. If it's gonna be a loose game, if a loose whistle, it should be loose. And that's my 2 cents. Please continue. I'm so sorry, but I'm with you on that.
I mean, granted, don't get me wrong. I do feel like they were kind of even as far as it, because just like you said, Angel Reese, I think it was Angel, Alexis, Poole, and somebody else. They all had 2 fouls. I mean, Monica Sonano had 2 fouls for Iowa. Caitlin Clark had 2 fouls. I think it was Warnock that had 2 fouls too. So it was definitely evenly spread around, but it was all equally bad. Like, that was my issue. I was like, every call was bad. I was just like, it was bad for her. And I mean, the tech on Caitlin to give her 3rd or 4th foul, like, come on, man, that was trash. Like,
I'm on the other side of it.
Oh, it was trash.
So look, no. Look, in that game, probably shouldn't be called. However, she be talking.
Well, that's true.
Talking.
The fact that that's not how they've been calling it.
No. I agree with you on that. I'm just saying, I could see a world in which the ref was like, "Hey, yo."
To me, it didn't look like she said anything. She just flipped the ball backwards. I could have missed it.
Hey, she be talking. Like the thing, it felt like one of them texts where you should have probably teed her up earlier. So like it didn't fit the crime at that moment.
Yeah, that could be something.
However,
earlier, because I definitely believe that refs do the whole, this will make up for
the
past. So,
like you should, like earlier when you felt like she deserved it, you should just did it instead of doing what you did later. But I'm with you. It was bad for everybody, both the men's and the women's side as a whole.
So it just literally came down to the fact that LSU's bench could help them out, and Iowa's bench couldn't. They couldn't do anything with them. I mean, Jasmine Carson when she shot the 3 at the end of the second quarter, I was like, if she made that, I was like, it's over. Like, I don't, like, who what happened? Like, and it was backboard. Like, come on, like, there's no way. And then, like you said, that blew the game open. They were up 17 at the half. And then you got your big guns who are rested now because they've been on the bench with fouls, ready to come back in and go back to war. And it was just too much for them. I feel like, honestly, like, I still can't believe that Iowa beat South Carolina, to be honest. Like, that kind of took me off. I wasn't even expecting that. So to see Iowa at least be against LSU, like, I kudos to them for trying to hang in there as long as they could, but I just didn't think that they were physically as matched as LSU was, which is why I was surprised, because South Carolina is pretty physical as well. They were able to kind of withstand it, but I think the difference between, South Carolina and LSU is LSU has shooters, South Carolina, as much as we love their program and we love all the players that they have there, they need some shooters. They need a knockdown shooter. And don't get me wrong, Bree Bill has come a very long way when it comes to her shooting. And she definitely, had a better shooting display this season. But they need more than that. They're going to need more than that. So I mean, I'm interested to see, because granted, we know Don Staley stays reloaded. I'm interested to see who's going to come off that bench and be that. I expect for it to be nothing but greatness from them going forward. But kudos and shouts out to LSU because they took their opportunity. As much as they were talked about this year, they had a quote unquote weak schedule. I think they only lost one game this year and they were a 3 seed, due to their quote unquote strength of schedule. And yeah, I mean, it was, I definitely would have wanted, I kind of wanted to see a rematch between them and South Carolina, but it is what it is at this point. But yeah, they deserved it. They kept their cool, for most of it. Because like I said, I think the officiating was horrible. Now, granted, Kim Mulkey was running up and down that sideline, running into referees all game. So maybe she didn't really keep her cool. But the players for the most part were able to kind of keep a level head, especially when it came down to the fouls that were so horrible. But all in all, it was a great game. Iowa did everything they could. They just couldn't really do anything with LSU stars and their physicality.
Now I'm with you, obviously, but like that was the thing with this South Carolina team, right? And sometimes it's like that for those teams. As a UConn fan, I get it. All championship teams aren't equal, and during your run, sometimes some teams have a fatal flaw. And if on the right day, the right moment, flaw get exposed, you're in trouble. It just is what it is. For Iowa, credit to them, they got the job done. And then yeah, I'm sure they. I don't even need to go look at what's coming in the South Carolina next year. I know it's going to be something, but, they're losing one of the best players in the program in Aaliyah, Boston. But again, shout out to Iowa and then LSU, just getting the job done, regardless of the schedule, what have you. And this is the fun part about the tournament. Whatever happens, what you can dance, your path is your path. If you have an easy path, I'll give you I have the same energy for you taking advantage of your path. If the whole way there you're better than those teams and you handle your business, to me I think that's sometimes a little bit more pressure when you have the quote unquote easier path, because yeah, you don't see those, but there's more room for every step along the way for you to just mess up.
Yeah,
just the fall.
I mean, look at Virginia Tech.
So it is what it is. But shout out to LSU, and again we'll get to some of this commentary around all of that in just a bit. Just a reminder, the women's pro game moves so quickly. My Lord, LSU just won a title. Look. Next week, we'll be recapping next Monday's WNBA draft on this show. So again, that's how quickly it moves. On the men's side, I'm a happy person. I'm not gonna act crazy out here because I'm gonna act like my team's done this before. Shocker, they have. Especially in that state of Texas. UConn beat Miami 72-59, courtesy of a big first half, to advance to the title game to face San Diego State, who held off FAU in a super close game, 72-71. That game was wonderful. San Diego State, with the lockdown defense, the rally in the second half, they rallied in almost every game this tournament. But last night in the championship game, they just ran down. Sometimes when you rally, you can't do some holes you can't climb out of. And last night it was too big a hole. All right, like there's nothing against San Diego State. Hell of a run by them for sure. And that UConn team, they won by double digits every game in the tournament. I think the thing that was weird about this team was they didn't have that quote unquote star player or that lead person. To me, it was like you remember the 04 team with Ben Gordon and Emeka? Mm-hmm. Which was a very balanced team, but BG and Emeka were big enough names. Emeka was a National Player of the Year, and so it was a little bit different. This was kind of like that, except, you got Sanogo in the Emeka role, but he's a different player. You got Hawkins in the BG role, again, different player, but then everything around him. But credit to them. Shout out to Dan Hurley. Got hired 5 years ago. Cardell was telling me I should be excited when he got hired. I've been excited for 5 years. And, they got the job done. 76-59, big first half. And then San Diego State did what they did. They mucked the game up. They get you in little pockets, turn you over, and they just attack. But they cut it to 5. Timeout UConn, come back out, dial up a Jordan Hawkins 3-ball, boom, and that's it. After that, shout out to that young man. Shout out to his cousin as well, and Angel Reese, for them. And y'all got to separate this for y'all outside the area. Angels from Baltimore. I got y'all. And this is me not being from here. I'm gonna step out here for everyone who is from here on this show. Angels from Baltimore. Jordan's from the DMV. And just like their cousins, those things are cousins. Those things are not the same.
Angels from Baltimore and Jordan's from Maryland. If that makes sense. You were like, listen, Baltimore and Maryland, two different things.
You want to know what it's like for some of you who don't get it? It's like if people like me that grew up in Connecticut say we're from New York. We are not. We are the suburbs of New York. We are not, in fact, New York City. All right? It's just that simple. Or other parts of New York being confused with New York City. Like, I'm kidding, but we just don't care. It's not the city.
Like people from Delaware saying they're from Pennsylvania, stuff like that.
You're from Delaware. They don't claim you. PA doesn't claim you. It's okay. It's all right. But we're here to talk about those lines.
Cousins. I like that.
They're just cousins. Just like they're cousins. They're familiar. They're cousins.
Yeah.
Cousins.
Not together.
What? Every post I saw like that, I was offended that I'm not from here. I was like, look, I figured that out before I moved here. Why are y'all struggling with this? Nobody checked with anybody before they got to posting it?
I was like, didn't he go to the map?
Man, again, this is me like, that's not right.
And it was even funnier because I see people like arguing in the comments like, yeah, that's Baltimore people. And the people like, yeah, the DMV. And I'm like, well, guys, it's the same, but it's different.
Cousins. Just keep the idea of cousins, and you can't mess it up again. Again, congrats to both. However, stop messing this up. It's not that hard.
Easy, guys. So easy.
And some of y'all need to retract those tweets. Like, it's just horrible. You messed up. It's okay. It's within the 24-hour window. Just fix it. We're gonna take our second break. When we get back, we're getting into some rapid fire. Got some fun things to talk. Some fun topics to touch on, depending on what you consider fun. You're watching the Focus TV. We will return very shortly. Right, welcome back to the Focus TV. As promised, here is rapid fire. All right, we'll just start here. One of the biggest stories, again, y'all social commentary, which has just been horrible this week, just sad. Cardo was like, he picked a great time to take a social media sabbatical. He did. I wish I had as well. Y'all need help. Some of y'all need help. So, the biggest story about nothing, but definitely it told a lot about folks depending on what side they were on, even though there shouldn't be sides, or how many people played competitive sports or not at all in their life. As LSU's winning the title game was waiting down to the final seconds, Angel Reese did the Caitlin Clark celebration to win Caitlin Clark, aka a whole nother side discussion. It's really the Tony Yayo celebration, as John Cena so quietly made it clear that it is not the John Cena celebration, it's the Tony Yayo celebration. That said, shout out to Tony Yayo. The internet full of folks who just discovered women's basketball this weekend and found out who Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were for the very first time in their lives. Credit to you guys for tuning in, but this is sometimes you should be seen and not heard. You just got here. Get here, listen to others for a little while, check out the room before you get loud about your opinions. It's just been nasty online about two people who, again, talk cash. They both talk cash. If you've ever seen them play live, they are always talking. That's both of them, right? How are y'all picking sides and trash talk?
Oh, I know how. I know exactly how. I know exactly how because I have literally been a part of it as a basketball player, as a African American basketball player playing against a white female basketball player. It's always been a situation. It's always been a thing. I feel like it will always be a thing. Like you said, it seems like 9.9 million viewers, all of them, because it was all their first time ever seeing girls play competitive basketball. We've been saying it for years at this point, and not enough people pay attention to female sports, especially female basketball, women's basketball. And this was like the first time that it was really on I don't want to say the first time because there has been situations, but this is probably like the first time in a long time that it's been this heightened. And honestly, it's because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. It's because of the way that they play. It's because of the trash that they talk. It gives people like, oh, okay, girls do that too. Yeah, girls do that too. And as a teenager growing up, when I played, it was always the same thing. And Angel being from Baltimore, our cousins, and me being from Maryland, it's so funny saying it. It was always a thing. I played against a lot of white teams in Virginia. I will never forget playing against the Fairfax Stars. Still don't like them.
I'm laughing because that's from out my way. Go ahead. Like,
Oh, yeah,
that's pretty much like Mount Vernon High
classes.
School.
Yeah, Fairfax Stars classes and Vogues. I will never forget playing against them. It was always a situation. So the feedback or the turmoil that everybody's coming up with, I'm not surprised, because it's people that don't look like us that just have something to say. When Caitlin did it, it was fine. Oh, it was competitive. It was, oh, that's swag. She's so cool. But now Angel's doing it. It's classless, low class, no sportsmanship. Like, she didn't curse the girl out. I mean, she didn't do anything outside of, she didn't harm her. She didn't swing on her. She didn't spit on her. She didn't call her out her name. She just competing. And, and I appreciate her showing her true, authentic self. That's how it is. Like, when we win, it's a party. Let's have fun. Yeah, because we just won the national championship. Something that, especially Angel transferring, and I'm gonna be honest, this hurts my heart. As happy as I am for her winning it, I just hate that she didn't do it in Maryland. But she transferred to a place and she was able to get what she wanted. That was her goal. So of course she's gonna show out and she's gonna have a good time. She should. And had it been the other way around, Caitlin should do the same thing. She should show out, have fun, do everything that she wants to. And another thing I hate about the situation too is, like, now that it's kind of, overplayed. Well, I'll say this first. What I do like is that Caitlin Clark has come out and she has defended Angel and said that she shouldn't be getting the backlash that she's getting. We're all competitors. We're all out there playing a game, and it was their time to shine. So I appreciate her saying that. We're gonna talk about the first lady later, because she tripping too. And then
somebody clearly grabbed her and told her what it was, because it got taken back real quick.
It was like, ma'am, stop it. You obviously, again, somebody who must not really pay attention to what this situation is. But what I also hate a little bit is, we're less than 48 hours from LSU winning. Angel, being great. Of course, she's a junior. She has another year to play. And don't get me wrong, I love me some Paige Beckers too. But they done forgot about Angel already. And they're like, oh yeah, well, Paige and Caitlin coming back next year. Like, don't forget about Angel. She still got some things left that she can do too. So I just hate that I hate it, but I expect it, which is why I don't really get mad about it anymore. I've gone through it personally, and I applaud Angel for speaking her truth, saying what she got to say, and I think she's 100% right. I don't fit the narrative. I'm not the cookie cutter, image that they want us to be at times. They want us to. I always say this. If you know me, Love and Basketball is my favorite movie. So I like to say the best in the movie. I always get told to calm down and act like a lady. I'm a ball player. Like, that's what it is. And when you yell and you scream and get in somebody's face, it's cool. But when I do it, calm down, act like a lady. No. So that's
no. Look, I'm with you. We got dudes in the league been doing the too small thing when they don't even score on people that are too small. Like,
did you not see Caitlin wave homegirl off when she had?
Look,
I ain't even going out
I'll
there.
say this: as somebody who has to, because cover Maryland, you see the Big Ten quite a bit. Been watching Caitlin for 3 years. Her behavior in this tournament, tame. This is nothing. I've seen far worse. This was nothing.
she hit the game winning shot in one of the games. I can't remember who was against. I think for in the Big Ten tournament. I mean, she ran and stood on top of the scores table.
But this is what's crazy to me is people going to defend somebody who understands that the game is the game. I got, so you get to do what you want. And if I get you, best believe she finna act the fool. These are the rules.
But it's my turn, yeah.
And that's the rule. The game is the game. If people on the outside, like, understand what you're watching or covering. And then the other thing, this goes with the whole thing of treating it equally if you are covering it. If the men do it and you have no issue, it shouldn't be a double standard. This isn't hard. If anything, people should just be talking about a very exciting NCAA tournament on the women's side.
It was really good.
You know, like that's all that needs to be said. It was much more entertaining than the men's side. There's nothing wrong. Like there's nothing wrong with saying that. Like,
I found myself like, nah, I'm gonna watch the girls game.
And there's nothing wrong with that because again, like, no disrespect to the guys, for the most part, it's better quality because people in school for at least 3 or 4 years or whatever. So people a little bit more familiar with their skills or whatever. And then, you know, you watch like the teams that ended up in the Final Four this year. Those were veteran teams. That's all it was. Just don't matter where you got your players from. Hey, come here, transfer. You come here. You come here. You come here. You owe. We owe. We all got, however, 3 years experience here, 4 years here, from a starter here. Oh, I'll take this 6 or 7 man role, coach. No problem. That's what was in the tournament. They just were on schools with names y'all weren't familiar with. But that's what ran through the tournament, through the quote unquote blue bloods. By the way, I got to get to this question before we get out of here because I'm too petty to not ask this question. I'm not above it, and I apologize for my pettiness. However, I must ask. Octavia, I have to ask. This one is near and dear to my heart. I have been laughing nonstop on the inside for a couple weeks. The Connecticut Huskies men's basketball team just won their 5th national title in 24 years. After their win on Monday night, the question was raised on Twitter. Are they, and should they be considered a blue blood? Look, I'm just here to...
I mean, I think they said, I think I heard they said, like, y'all have 5 and y'all are tied with it's either UNC or Duke or something. I can't remember.
I think we're tied with Duke. We're 1 back of UNC.
Okay.
I think UNC got us about 1. However, I'm just, regardless, because the things I've been saying, first I want to ask, you have to answer the question first, and then I'll tell you some of the stuff I've been hearing.
Okay. My answer is, duh.
Look, I have to ask. So, some of the stuff I saw last night on the interwebs, which were, I tell you, this stuff is good. It's gold. Like, for real, it's gold. I was told that they can't be considered a blue blood because it's too many years where they don't make the tournament and they don't have enough appearances.
What does an appearance matter if you don't win?
I'm just telling you what I was told. The 7 to 8 years that they don't make the tournament should be held against them is what I was told. Just tell you what I was told.
I first want to know, like, who died and made people in charge of who's a blue blood and who's not? Like, who is the person that makes the decision? Who are you?
Look, again, I've been laughing for like a week because I think Coach Larry Nega accidentally said it, or I think he was just speaking to it because that was the narrative. Like, I think like around the Sweet 16 with the regular blue bloods, like with Kansas and them, bowed out not so gracefully. It was there's no blue bloods left in the tournament. So, that was the narrative. And then we get to the Final Four and everyone's like, supposed to win. Why should they win? You said they're not a blue blood. I'm confused. What is it? I want to know why. I just want an honest answer to my question because I was told that they don't qualify because chips aren't the only thing that matter. Apparently your appearances do. And because you don't make the tournament means you're not consistent. Again, that's 5 in 24 years, right? And the longest stretch they've went without winning one is the current one, which it was 10 years. That was the longest stretch.
Almost 10 because it was 2014, right?
Yeah. So 9 years, I'm sorry. That was the longest stretch in between them.
Yeah, I don't know who these people are. They don't pay attention to sports enough, right? Because even my thing is this, like, even the years difference doesn't matter to me. You tell me 5 in 24 years, right? Like, I'm not the best at math, but let's round the 24 to 25. That's like five every 5. It's like one every 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you just do like averages, it's like one every five
Look,
years.
I'm just here to
Oh,
I'm just here to pose a question because
yeah.
that's what's been out here after they won. That's
Yeah.
all. Like
So they better hope. They better hope next year's not in Texas because y'all coming.
that's the other thing. Like so, like this is my rule. I don't do brackets anymore, but the times that I've won like pools and my teams won me pools is these are the rules. Is Duke on our side of the bracket? If they are, take us. We're going on a ride. Just if they're near us, we're going. They're gonna fail somewhere, we're going, or we'll see them and beat them in the square. If it's in Texas, put your money on blue.
That's why I was like, what am I like? Where is next year's?
Shout out to the great state of Texas too. They've been oh so good to people.
Yeah,
That's 4 to 5 in Texas.
Dallas, Houston. I don't know where else. I don't know, San Antonio. It's a bunch of places in Texas. It's so damn big. So
Here we go. I'm sorry before we leave. This is the stuff. The curious case of Connecticut is a new blue blood. The last 25 years failed to reach the second weekend 15 times but won 5 titles.
yeah, I won 5 titles. So what is argument?
I'm just sharing that part of it.
A ring on everything.
Look, man, I'm just here to share. I don't get it. I told you I found it funny. I had to bring it to the table. I wish everyone else was here because I know Cardell would have rolled his eyes. Ray would have probably hit the same type of response you had. Like, seriously, man, you came on here to ask me this question. Oh man, but it's so bad. Coach K came out and said it today.
Oh wow.
And he don't like us at all. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Keep us out the ACC. We see you though. You retired. I'm gonna let you live. It's fine. You got it. But we got you in 99, buddy. You kicked it off. Shout out to you. I want to thank you guys for each and every week for tuning in. We're looking forward to next week when we talk about the WNBA draft to see who went where, see what the Mystics end up with. I think Ali's going number 1, but after that, we'll see how things go. But anything's possible. We don't know what moves can be made between now and then. Just a reminder, each week the show is available Wednesdays, not between 9 and 9:30 a.m. On the Focus TV, on our Roku channel. If you have a Roku television device, all you have to do is type in the search box and type in the Focus TV, double tap OK. Add the channel, you'll get the weekly show and whatever else we have going on. Like, for instance, got Wizards Outlook later tonight. That ends up on the channel. Anything else we have additionally usually ends up on the channel. If you don't have a Roku television or device and you do live inside the city, you can just watch it on your DC TV. Just check your local listings. Friday at 10 p.m. and Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. Or you can check it on their website, dctv.org, and you can just click on the live stream and find out when it syncs up on the schedule, and that's it. But thank you guys for spending time with us this week. For Octavia and myself, it's been the Focus TV.